Hello, my friends, and welcome to MSP Unplugged's Emerging Vendor Series. I'm your host, Rick Smith. Each week, we highlight a ConnectWise PitchIT contestant, which is an emerging vendor who is changing the game and making a big impact on the MSP space. I would like to introduce my co-host. He is the economic evangelist at ConnectWise. You know what? I think it's I think that this is now just embedded in me to screw it up. Okay. I just think it is just part of me. The economy evangelist.
Oh my God.
Folks, I try really hard.
Oh my
And I'm gonna be honest with you. There is a script in front of me with the words written out, and I still cannot say them together.
I, you know what? This is the beauty of our industry is that we constantly make mistakes, the same ones sometimes over and over again. Like saying economics instead of economy, or being a Cowboys fan instead of a good teams fan. Constant mistakes. But again, the nice part about this industry is we find forgiveness for those that don't simply understand. Um, and
So there's forgiveness for me for not being able to say economy evangelist.
There you go. You finally said it. Look, the only one it doesn't count. You finally said economy evangelist. I'm so proud of you. We're making strides.
Folks, this is our, I don't know, 10th, 15th episode together. I think I may have gotten this right once.
Maybe, maybe when you did a retake.
Yeah, when I did a retake. But it's so sad. And again, I'll say this, it is written in front of me, his title, in front of me on the screen, and I still cannot put those two words together. I can't say Sean Lardo of ConnectWise, Sean Lardo, the economy evangelist of ConnectWise. I cannot say that for some reason.
You know what? It's okay. We can move on from it now. I digress from it. Let's go. All right. I'm doing great, Rick. How are you today?
I'm glad to hear it, Sean. I'm doing good. How was your weekend? Good stuff?
It was great. I bought a new car.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I didn't want to buy a new car.
Maybach sitting in the driveway now?
I wanted to buy one, but I didn't want to buy one, right? And I have my car I had that I just traded in was the Lincoln MKZ, and it was like a 2017 paid off. I took great care of it. It was like brand new still. And the only reason why, and I was never going to buy a new car, but then I had grandchildren and I have car seats. I can't fit the car seats because because the MKZ it's a 4-door car, but it's a smaller, sportier one, right? So I had to. So I had to trade in to put grandchildren car seats in there. And
you had to graduate to grandpahood. Huh? Congratulations, my friend.
It's totes adorbs, right? Totes adorbs. God, I'm like, what is he doing? And cars are they're not cheap, and they're. So I ended up buying a brand new 2023 Lincoln Nautilus. So
wow, congratulations, sir.
Thank you. I mean, it's going to be car payments for the next 25 years, but looking forward to payments for 25 years. It's going to be
great. Hey, but it's all for the grandkids, man. That's great.
It's so sad. It is. I don't even care. My kids my kids are like, well, what about me? I'm like, you really don't have any relevance at this point. It's just
you don't count anymore.
I walk in the door to see them. I'm like, I walk right to the kids. Like,
I hear you.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was great. It was relaxing. Told you I had a week off. No kids in the house. No.
Oh, nice.
So I had all these, you know how it is. I had all these grand plans of things to do, and I got maybe one of those accomplished.
You have to, honestly. At some point, you have to just sit there and just let loose, and do nothing or do everything else that you're not supposed to do. Either or. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how I feel. Honestly, I was at ASCII last week. By the way, ASCII Columbus. Anyway, it watches this. I already told Jerry, and you should tell him also that is a great location. People that didn't go missed out. It is by far their best location.
Wow. Okay.
And they never go. It's in Easton, Ohio, right outside of right next to Columbus itself. There's a huge area of all shopping, bars, restaurants. Everything is right there, literally.
Oh, okay. I know exactly where it is then.
It is such a nice setup. The Hilton where we stayed was right there. Right, you literally walked out the front door and you're walking right into the shopping of everything. It was really nice. Cool. I told him, I was like, dude, you didn't do it. You guys need to do better service for this. And show everybody, because if you have a spouse and you don't come to these because you can't leave your spouse, You know, you can't bring them with you because there's nothing for them to do.
Right.
There's a place for them to go.
It's a good
Legitimate, like,
place.
and you can do all your Christmas shopping. Get it all out of the way. Seriously,
Yeah,
it was nice.
I've been there a couple of times to Easton.
Yeah, it is really nice. I mean, it seriously, it was very nice. So, and they had a good, but they had a really good show though. It was they're getting really good turnouts, and honestly, I feel like we've stepped over the hump of where people are having more informed conversations about what's really happening as an MSP out there now. Like you went from everybody fought this cloud migration, right? They all wanted to do on-prem everything still. They all and you had this big thing go on, and now that people are starting to accept more cloud-based solutions, they're having more formal conversations about cloud-based now, less about we're trunk slammers. Good luck. You know, that's not the case anymore, which is good. It's really nice to see.
Cool. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about PitchIT before we bring on our contestant for the week.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about PitchIT and what's going on with it.
Sure. So, well, what's going on first off is the fact that last week with ASCII was my PitchIT vendors there. They sponsored. ASCII put together a special package for them that they could that was not cheap, just cost effective. But he really did them a solid. They did a solid for them. We released a press release last week about our partnership working together, you know, between the PitchIT program and ASCII and things they've done for them. So really exciting to have that. And we had 4 or 5 of the vendors from PitchIT from last year and this year that were there sponsoring, which is nice to see. You know, the ability for growth. However, so that was good. Nice to go on stage with them, talk about them, and get some more exposure and get them involved with some conversation with MSPs. Now, for those that don't know what PitchIT is, PitchIT is a ConnectWise sponsored Shark Tank-like concept competition, and it's the 5th year running for this happening. And what we're looking for is the best of the vendors that are innovative startup companies. And by best of the best, we mean obviously they can have a great solution and all, but they have to also be complementary to the ConnectWise ecosystem, and most importantly, be able to support the mission of MSPs, right? So we had three promises that came out 2 years ago from Jason McGee. It was easier to do business with, even more investment in partner growth, and more innovations faster. And so this program emulates that. And again, it is a competition. So right now we have 26 vendors in that are competing to try to make it through the preliminaries, which will be taking place at the end of August. And from there, from 26 teams, we will narrow it down to 3. The 3 finalists will go to IT Nation Connect in November. On November 8th, they'll pitch live there. And it is for the grand prize of $70,000. Second place is $30,000. Third place, steak knives. But important to note, though, too, in the event, startup vendors need to pay attention is if you make it as one of the finalists, your booths are free at Connect for this year. So whoever's the 3 finalists they all get free booths. They already get a victory right then and there. And if anybody knows the price of sponsoring these events anymore, they're not cheap. So
sounds good. Let's bring in this week's guest, who is a participant in the PitchIT program. Want to welcome Norm McConkey. He is the founder and CEO of B2B Toolbox. Norm, how are you?
I'm great. Looking forward to our conversation today, Rick. I know you almost said contestant, and I felt like I was on a game show or something.
Yeah, it varies each week what I refer to you guys as. But welcome to the show. For those of us who don't know you, just give a little history of your background and how B2B Toolbox came about.
Sure. I've been in the IT and technology space, more concentrated and focused in the printer and office print arena over the last couple of decades. Been at it long enough that I almost, toned down how many years I've been in the industry these days. But B2B Toolbox, the name may not be familiar to some. Previous to this, we were MPS Toolbox, which stood for Managed Print Services. Kind of confused a lot of folks in this industry because you want to immediately say MSP.
Right.
But the B2B Toolbox is all things e-commerce and digital marketing to the channel.
Okay.
Why the name change?
So obviously on the print side, I can say it simply. I woke up one day and realized just how many people dislike office print, and I was part of it. But honestly, if you look and you understand where the market's going, office print's a fairly large industry. It may account for somewhere like $50 billion worth of revenue, but it's shrinking. And IT overall, of course, continues to expand. And I saw that Jay McBain and Channels kind of said that industry is about $5 trillion, will double in the next 5 years. So I woke up one day and said, I'm part of an industry where 2,000 or 3,000 dealers and resellers wake up every day and try to convince offices that they need to print more. But over here on the other side, there's a couple of 100,000 companies that look and say, why are you printing anything? There's got to be a technology solution to that. So I switched teams, just like you can switch from the Cowboys to the Bills if you want to, right? It's easy. It's easy, especially today.
So we're talking about making wise decisions. Are we talking about making wise decisions on switching today? Is that what we're talking about?
I'd rather talk about e-commerce.
Right. So I have to jump in with a story real quick, since Norm, you're in Toronto, Canada.
Yeah.
So about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago at this point, I live in Pittsburgh. I was at a Pirate game. We were tailgating outside. We were in first place playing against the other team we were tied with, which was the Toronto Blue Jays, for first place. So there's a ton of Canadians that come down to Pittsburgh. It's not that far of a trip, and they're coming out from Toronto. And we're in the parking lot. We're tailgating. So we're playing cornhole, drinking, grilling, and I'm drinking Labatt's Blue Light at that, because 30 pack of that is only like $22. So it's easy to get together. And if you're going to like pound beers, you're drinking cheap stuff, right? I mean, and Labatt's Blue Light isn't that bad. So the story is, all these Canadians are walking by and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, we're tailgating, music playing. They're like, yeah, but what are you doing? Like you have like you're drinking outside in the street. I'm like, yeah, that's what we do here. And then I learned that you guys are not allowed to drink in the street. So I literally started handing beers to every single Canadian. So you can stay hydrated as you walk to the game. The game's like, the stadium's a block away. They're like, what about the cops? I'm like, offer them a drink. They don't care. They were mesmerized. I was like a magician. So,
oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm done. Enough of that. Sorry, Rick. Go on. Back to business.
Okay. Well, Norm, tell us exactly, what does B2B Toolbox do, and how does it help MSPs?
Well, I like to say, we do, MSPs every day use e-commerce. They're buying constantly from their distributors. Could be Ingram Micro, could be TD SYNNEX. You're not calling up and asking somebody for a product or sending an email. Generally speaking, that's e-commerce. And the customers of MSPs are buying via e-commerce every day. They're typically buying products from Amazon or CDW or others. So we're trying to make that happen. If you're a managed service provider today, I don't think you can afford to continue operating without an e-commerce platform. So what we do is take all of the products that an MSP or ConnectWise partner can get from their distributors. We allow them so that they're pulling prices and product information, or prices and availability, from the distributor. And we mix that in with some offline data that ConnectWise uses from Utilize, so that a customer can go to an MSP's website, search for a product, click on it, and buy it. So oftentimes we're not thinking a lot about that transaction cost. We know how much our internal costs are. Most MSPs realize they could probably make improvements. They're not particularly efficient when it comes to setting up customers for quotes and getting them to buy. They don't typically have an e-commerce platform. So we like to close that loop. I wouldn't want to, if I was an MSP, not have e-commerce and then require a customer to go outside of my universe ecosystem to go and buy a product. Because I got to tell you, competitors like Amazon and CDW, they're not just happy selling you a laptop or another peripheral. They want it all. So if you're sending them there, I would say that's a dangerous way to conduct the business.
Well, I think so. I would say it's pretty important to the struggle for MSPs forever, and Rick will attest this being MSP, is keep you're trying to do, for several reasons. One is competitors will offer services and try to suck you in, right? That's one. Two, if you offer a certain way, you can actually represent whatever your stack is, whatever the technologies you're most comfortable with, all that stuff, right? So, and to your point, Amazon and whatnot, they do curate people that bought this buy this also. So do you have the ability for that to happen?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So one of the things, obviously, you can buy in some cases hundreds of thousands of products from somebody like Ingram Micro, but you may not, of course, want to have a Google Chromebook as part of your stack. You may want to neuter that stack and say, I have these Lenovo devices or I have these Dell products that I want. You may also want to add into it when somebody buys, let's say, a laptop, or you configure a server and you enable them to buy that online. You may want to add in the additional peripherals. So there's a couple of ways that we can do that. You at first, decide which vendors and products you want to have on the system, and also what price points. So you may have good, better, best partners. Some of them might get, a very preferred pricing. Some of them might get, off the street sort of pricing. So you can conduct that. So you can, I'll use the word neuter your products down to whichever ones are consistent with your stack, and change those prices, make them customized according to the customer as well.
Okay. So sorry, go ahead, Rick.
No, I just want to be clear on. So you would be, I asked these questions specifically from the MSP perspective.
Yep.
You would be the go-between between us and our vendors. So you would pull the prices based on how we're labeling them. Is that accurate?
So you may buy certain things from Ingram, right, as a distributor, and you might be enabled to or authorized to sell, well, Apple or Dell, somebody down, and you may pay a certain price for it. Another MSP may have a totally different product set that they can buy from with different prices. Your prices and products that you want to put on your site are absolutely consistent with what you want. The other MSP is consistent with what they want. It's critical that it's your own website. It's not going through my website. The actual site itself is hosted by Shopify, but the back end data that pulls all of that together. So we have an app, a B2B Toolbox app that integrates with Shopify. All of the data gets pulled into the B2B Toolbox website and database, and you select from that the products and information that you want to send out to your customers and have resident on your website.
Okay.
So does that, okay, so a lot of them, most MSPs will track all their stuff with clients through their PSA, right? And then obviously for on ConnectWise side, manage and sell is a big part of this. That's how they have their documents for whatever is being purchased and serviced and whatnot. So as they're doing this, if somebody goes on and buys this way, is that updating for them automatically into any of these any contracts? Is it updating to the account, or how's that process look?
So all the information, order information on the front end comes back to our end via a set of data via JSON. So the customer can then import it into their own systems, usually their accounting systems, because those are what are integrated with their order systems with their distributors. So all of that information is consistent with that, Sean.
Okay.
And one other thing I might put out is on that, one of the things you can do, think about this as a case study or just as a use case. One of your customers has a new employee starting tomorrow at 4:30, right? It's 4:30 in the afternoon, and they want a laptop. They want a standard set of products. Well, they don't need to go and speak to anybody to do this. You could put that standard set of products up on the website in the form of a quote. Specific to that customer, they can log in and it would say new customer quote, add to cart, send it off to you, and you're going to receive that information automatically. So there's no need internally to continuously do what I would say repetitive tasks for your customer. So we automate all of those things. And then as well, think about peripherals. So they don't want to have to use ConnectWise or talk to a person, I would say, every time they want to buy a new headset or a new keyboard or something else.
Sure.
So in that respect, they just want to go to the website and do that. Customers are not likely going to call someone to execute that. And that's what we enable as well.
Okay. So that order is placed, let's say we use that 4:30 example you gave about procuring a new laptop for a new employee. That order is placed by the customer. They go onto the website, they place that order. Now, that order then gets turned around and shipped to us or to them, however we have set that up to happen, right?
Correct.
The commerce part of that is all taken care of through Shopify, I'm assuming, and just
Yeah, and over time we've developed and added more functionality to it. So if you have customers and you want them to pay via credit card, of course that can be done on Shopify. And so all of that product would be ordered, and 2 or 3 days later, after it clears from their credit card, it gets put into your bank account. Very simply. Some customers are larger; they don't want to buy via credit cards, so you can assign them an ability to purchase via a purchase order. So then at the end of the month, you can bill them and add those additional products.
Okay.
That's up to you to decide. But standard out of the box, everybody buys via credit card.
Okay. Now, is there a way, I just say this because I know some of my customers, do we get to put an approval on some of these purchases? Does that make sense?
That's a great question. Yeah, it does. So we have an approver system set up so that yeah, if you're a user of the system, there might be a superior to you that you can put an order in. That person, that the approver gets notified, that purchase order or that product that one of the end users wants to buy has to be approved, and you can then decide to set it up. Do they need to approve with a purchase order or something else? That's done online, and then you get the information, Rick, that says this order has been approved by so and so, verified, and then you can proceed with the order.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, larger customers want that. A lot of banks and things like that. It's a pretty standard function that we offer our customers.
Yeah, because we run into the issue sometimes of employee A saying, "Hey, I need a new this, and this," and it gets ordered, and then the person who pays like, "I didn't approve this," or "Who approved this?" So that's the question for that.
And what's kind of important to think about that is compare that to Amazon, right? If somebody's going to Amazon, there's nobody at Amazon that's going to look at an order and say, this customer shouldn't be buying this product, right? And also there's nobody that they could end up buying socks, right? Or Kleenex or detergent or something, or a product that you as a managed IT provider don't want to service. So it can cause a great problem. So they're only going to come to your site. In addition to the approval side, you can set it up so they're only going to have access to products that you're comfortable to sell them and that you feel like you can support.
Okay.
And I think it's important to note, and if I understand correctly, this is treated as not where you have to purchase products in advance. This could be drop shipped as well. So you're not holding the inventory itself for hardware. It is literally just you're passing through, correct? They like so I don't want MSPs to think they have to go buy inventory and store it to sell it from your e-commerce. Right. Like that's not what we're talking about here.
Not at all. And obviously some of the software products are forever in stock. There's no inventory of them. But yeah, it's a great point. Most of the people that use this, they're stocking nothing. They're just pulling the order down and they're pulling the order from a distributor. So think of it this way too. You can have two distributors. You can have Tech Data, TD Synex, and you can have Ingram. They may have the same product. One of them has it for a less expensive amount. Our system's going to look when a customer puts an order in and base the pricing and base the order on who the best available distributor at the best available price is. So you don't have to waste time trying to figure out who I should buy it from. And of course, it's going to have, on a daily basis, the current inventory of each one of those products. I like to say as well, when you think about e-commerce, one of the difficult things is 99% of the products that are going to be on your website, you'll never sell. It's only 1%. Problem is you don't know which 1% it is. So you have to continuously offer, all the products that they might buy. And in the case of laptops, at any given time I look from a distributor, there's like 10 or 12,000 different laptops. But next week, there will be 2,000 or 3,000 different ones. Some will be end of life, some will be out of stock. So we're managing all of that inventory, product availability, and data for you. It'd be pretty difficult to send a human on that to do it themselves.
Right. Okay.
And it's a lot of work to do it themselves as well.
And that's a great segue into it. Like that is a lot of work, right? I mean, MSPs have the challenge of they have to update their price books, they have to get quotes out, they have to do all these other things that are all manually and time really intensive of the issue, and that's a big issue for them, right? So how easy or difficult, or what's the workload look like to work with you all?
So it takes about, we have a pretty standard onboarding procedure. So if you decide, right, I want to start offering an e-commerce site, we offer two versions of it. It can either be a store.yourwebsite.com, and we're just sort of an appendage on that website that's an e-commerce portal, or we can build the entire website for the customer, which then has sort of e-commerce in it, depending on the category of product and things that they're looking to do. But in simple terms, we're very used to dealing with the distributors, understanding price levels. We give guidance. I would say the average customer takes 30 to 60 days from the time they make a decision that they want e-commerce to having the B2B Toolbox up and running on their system.
Okay, that's impressive. So, and I'll use Rick as the example. Rick, how does that make sense to you as an MSP owner?
Well, it does make sense. Again, I am concerned about when it comes to things. I want things to be easy, right? I want the least amount of I want the best bang for my buck, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want my employees searching for the best price, or spending a day trying to put together a quote or things like that. So this is what makes sense to me, because what I'm concerned about, what I can't get back, is the time that we lose on doing things like that. And that's what's important, because we could quickly put that together and be moving on to something else more important than procuring a PC for someone, basically. So
Rip,
for me,
that's amazing, as you said it that way. Like, because you're right. The time it takes, like a lot of managed IT folks are going to say, I don't want to sell hardware. There's no margin in it. And really in the back of their mind is, it's a lot of work to configure this and then send it to the customer, and then maybe end up at a price that they could have said, you know what, it's easier. I'm just going to go to CEW and buy it. Why don't I do that?
Right.
So, but when you are managing the stack and you can say, hey, thou shalt come to our website and buy these products because these are the ones that we support. Most of the people using our system are making 30+% gross margin on their hardware, because they're the ones that are dictating what somebody can use. And it doesn't take all of that legwork. So, you can think of it, it's going to increase revenue because you're going to sell hardware that you don't normally sell, and package software SKUs. And it's going to reduce your costs. You're not going to have expensive employees trying to run around configuring things.
Right. And I think another point that's very important is you get to configure what they buy, because we've made it a point, because in the past, and every MSP, probably at the sound of my voice, can attest to this, things show up in the office and somebody's like, hey, we got a new computer, we got a new printer, we got a new XYZ. Can you come connect it or set it up? Right. We don't support anything we do not approve. And that's just because 9 times out of 10, customers buy on price rather than buy on specs, right? Or what's necessary that they need, right? They'll go buy a machine from a local store that does not have Windows XP, wow. Does not have Windows Pro. They'll buy, Windows Home or something like that, or something with 4 gigs of RAM. So, this is where it becomes, again, important, because we don't support what you don't order from us, or at least get approval from us that this is the right thing for you. So then at least this makes sense, that you can set, here's your specs that you can buy from. So if you need to buy, here's where you go to us, you can buy it this way. Because I just think that's important, because again, that's another time coster, and it's a frustration for us, and it's a frustration for the client when they buy wrong equipment.
It's a great point, because I can often ask a managed service provider, what is your cost? What's your employee cost per hour? And you can tell me that, it right away. And then I'll ask you this question: what's your customer's cost per hour? How much does it cost for them to run their business? You don't know. But what you're doing here is I get your point. Say, I'm your managed service provider. I want you to use my stack and these products because I know I can support them. What the customer is going to immediately say is, that's fine, Rick, but you're really hard to deal with. I can't buy those products from you when I want to. I have to call you. I have to request a quote. You have to give me this information back. Where I know that that's not the way my business needs to work. I know that I can go to another website and buy that in the time it takes for me to write an email to you to say I want it. So you have to, in respecting your own time, which you will, when you and the team and everybody starts thinking about the employee's time or the customer's time, that really changes the battleground here.
Right. And it makes sense. It makes total
I
sense.
would agree. So let me go one step further with this, though. MSPs that focus heavily and actually work off of QBRs, right? Is there, how does that work in conjunction with your product? Because if they're actually doing QBRs, they're already curating what's needed to purchase, typically in a QBR, right? So is there any kind of functionality built around that if I'm doing a QBR as the MSP with you, the client, that I can upload a list or anything like that? Do you guys have that, or is it in the plans of doing so? Because I think that would be really strong. Again, come back to the quoting process. That's where a lot of quotes end up coming from, is that in some cases.
Yeah, so you can take your quote and immediately copy that and put it on your e-commerce portal. So when that customer logs in, they can look at a list of all the different products that they should buy. It can include QBRs. One of the other things, as I mentioned, it can include new employees starting. You can have a replacement products. So for example, let's say they do actually have a printer, and every once in a while they break down and they need a new one. You can have a standard product list that they're able to pull from just by logging in, knowing that that's a standard that they can buy from you, and it's one click and buy and done.
Okay.
All right, perfect.
I want to shift a little bit from what you guys are doing to your experience here with the PitchIT program. Now, I know you guys are, I'm not even gonna guess what week you're in because I get it wrong every week anyway. But how's your experience been in PitchIT?
Overwhelmingly positive, and I'm not just saying this to get on Lardo's good side. But what I mean by that is they have helped us, and I would say, the B2B Toolbox, a pretty mature company. We've been at it for quite some time, but really helping understand the industry, bringing forward experts to help us, understand a little bit more about, what is it exactly you're selling? What is the business benefit? What does the market say about this? So much preparation that goes into it. And in addition, things like today, how would, B2B Toolbox get the word out to, to ConnectWise customers? Well, this is one way, being able to do this type of thing that I would never have had the opportunity to do. I'd have to call up you, Rick, and say, hey, Rick, can you pitch my product? Can we talk about it? It's too difficult. So you can tell that this is ConnectWise's, fifth year or longer in doing this. And I'm sure this is my first experience. I think they obviously get better and better, but win, lose, or draw, B2B Toolbox is a much stronger, better company for having gone through this.
Cool.
You're
Sean,
on my
I
good
think you
side.
should take that. I know. I was gonna say, I think you should take that clip there. I'll send you the clip and you can use that.
Yeah, we need that. Noah's gonna be the poster child.
No, but that's good. I mean, we talk to vendors. Each week when we were talking to Paco and I are talking to vendors, we get that same feedback, and I think that's good. Like, Sean will tell you this, and then everybody who's heard me before, I'm a big advocate for this because I, as an MSP, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've had some good experiences, some bad experiences when it comes to vendors, right? We all know we want to do business with people we know, like, and trust, but we also want to do business with people who we feel know what they're doing, right? Or actually care and have understand my side of this too. So I root for you guys because I can't be successful with what I do if I don't have good vendors, right? So I'm glad that you guys are in this program learning, how to service your customers, as you say, the experiences you're getting that ConnectWise is providing you guys, I think is great. So, as I say to every vendor that I interview, I tell them, hey, I'm rooting for you. I hope you win, because if you do better, that means we do better.
We're very, very fortunate as an industry to have somebody like ConnectWise. I'm involved in different industries. I mentioned, our product is on Shopify. They don't do this with their own community, and yet they're a massive company. There's thousands of apps that work with Shopify. They're not promoting them the way you are. There's also a recognition because it's technology, and I think maybe that's why. Because I think of other industries that ConnectWise realizes they can't do it all themselves. There are different needs for different people in the industry, and maybe e-commerce and B2B Toolbox is right for some. It's not right for everybody. But that doesn't mean that ConnectWise has to go off and develop all of these various different functions for themselves. A lot easier to get, people, especially early on when there's early adoption, companies like us, hammering home that need and fulfilling a need that is emerging in the market.
I would agree with that. And I'm glad you even noticed that, acknowledge that, because, it's funny because when you're talking about the identity of the space, and Rick being in it for a while now, we've had companies like us even that have tried to be the end all be all, and it's impossible. There's just too many moving parts now. There's too many moving parts, and there's too many variables. There's, you name it, that's a problem. Even like, especially in this space, if you're an MSP and you've been around for 15 plus years, chances are you're using Kaseya and ConnectWise for something, and maybe some other companies as well, right? So when you're building things off of those, it's impossible to have one-stop shop and all be all. So ecosystem is extremely important at this point.
Right.
That whole stack alignment, you see the reports every year from CompTIA come out about what's going to happen for this year, what MSP should focus on, right? And it breaks down probably 10 to 15 different categories of things you should have as offerings and as organizational support systems. And for ConnectWise, our future is in this ecosystem regardless, because we want companies like you guys to keep stepping up, because we can't build everything. It's way too hard. If you build it, you can't support it all either. Not everything. And so eventually your product will mature, you'll be acquired, and you'll be part of a core product, and new technologies will emerge, right? Maybe you'll be part of it, maybe you won't. I mean, last year we had a company that actually built Quozo, that sold to ConnectWise years ago, that built another product, went back into it, did a startup again. So it's not uncommon. And that's great for us, especially those of you that know what you're getting involved in and know how to support the customer in a different way. We're fine with that.
Fantastic.
Well, Norm, as we wind down to the end of the show right now, is there anything that you think that you wanted to say to the audience that you think we didn't touch on, or any final thoughts on B2B Toolbox or PitchIT program, whichever,
Yeah, I think what I would say simply is we're very adept now, and when it comes to e-commerce and understanding where people are, seeing is believing. You and I can talk about it, and I know you've had some great questions today, but come to the website at the b2btoolbox.com or reach out to me on LinkedIn, and we can do like a 20 or 30 minute demo, and real live one-to-one. You can ask your specific questions, and we can show it to you and find out whether or not that's worthwhile. It's going to fit into your business or not. So come and do that, because I really think when it comes to e-commerce and what we do, seeing is believing. It's much more understood as opposed to a conceptual idea.
Okay, sounds good. Now, for those of you interested, you can find in the show notes the link to the ConnectWise marketplace, which will give you a link to B2B Toolbox to gain more information from them. Sean, any final thoughts before we sign off here?
I think Norm said it best, even, and we've talked about this before. Anybody's watching this should, at the very least, go look at this stuff. Go look at these vendors. Two things. One is they want your feedback on how to improve if necessary, right? Or how to best work with you all. Two, for the PitchIT program ourselves, we want your feedback. We want to know what you're doing and what you're seeing and how you feel about it, because again, we're all in this together. And, we're successful as a collective, not as an individual. So I hope that people do look at this and pay attention to what's going on. Follow all these, we put these out every, 2 to 3 a week now with all of our vendors.
2 a week we do,
so yeah, you have a chance and get to know these guys, the companies, and figure out what, if they make sense in your stack. The worst thing you do is have a good conversation with somebody.
Exactly. Now, keeping that in mind, as we sign off here, we do invite you to join us. Paco and I release our podcast on Tuesdays. On Wednesday and Thursday for the summer, we are releasing, as we just talked about, episodes of the Emerging Vendor series, which is these phenomenal vendors here through the ConnectWise Pitcher program. We invite you to watch all of this on the video podcast on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged or facebook.com/MSP Unplugged. We do us a favor here, like, subscribe, hit the notification button to be notified whenever a new episode is available. If you prefer to listen and think we have a face for radio only, you can catch us on your favorite podcatcher app. We're on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. These guys got me laughing here. But for Sean, Norm, and myself, we'd like to thank you. And see you next time on MSP Unplugged.
Doodles.